Kristen Everett reporting live from North Hennepin Community College in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. President Clinton is making his 5th trip to Minnesota this year. In fact, this is his 2nd trip to Minnesota in the past week. Last Thursday, he was in Duluth campaigning for U.S. Senate candidate Ann Winia. It's appropriate that the rally is being held here today because Winia is a teacher here at North Hennepin. We can also expect to hear from a former student of hers. And then we are going to be going live also to U.S. Senator Paul Wellstone is here. First Lady Hillary Rodham Clinton is supposed to be here. This is all going to be happening momentarily. We expect within the next 5 to 10 minutes the President will be arriving and taking the stage that you see behind me.
Ladies and gentlemen, your United States Senator Paul Wellstone. And your next United States Senator, Ann Winia. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, William Jefferson Clinton, and the First Lady, Hillary Rodham Clinton.
President and Mrs. Clinton arriving at the gymnasium to thunderous applause. Joining them on stage, U.S. Senator Paul Wellstone and U.S. Senate hopeful Ann Winia.
It is my great pleasure to introduce the First Lady of the United States, Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Hello. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, and thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I am delighted to be here. This is an exciting time for all of us because many, many people around the country have for years and years looked to Minnesota. I grew up in Illinois, and I spent a lot of time in Minnesota. And I have a lot of friends in Minnesota. And our daughter went to camp in Minnesota. So we follow with great interest this state and what it is doing to fulfill its remarkable tradition of solving problems and making it possible for people from one end of the state to the other to fulfill their own dreams and to make their own futures. And that is why I am so pleased to be here supporting Ann's candidacy. I didn't just hear about Ann Winia when the Senate campaign started. I had heard about her when she was a legislator here in Minnesota, because I had worked for years on behalf of children and families, and I was particularly concerned many years ago about what we could do to help families deal with problems that they had in order for them to be stronger, to do a better job with their own children. And time again, when I would ask around the country, what's happening to try to make sure working families get health insurance, people would say, well, look what Ann Winia is doing in Minnesota. When I would ask, what is being done creatively to make our streets and neighborhoods safer, they would say, look at what Ann Winia is doing, which is why the police of Minnesota have endorsed Ann Winia. When I would ask, what is happening to make our schools better and to make sure that as we move toward the 21st century, our children get the education they need, I would be told, look at Ann Wynia in the Minnesota legislature on issue after issue. The problems that I, as a woman, as a mother, as a citizen care about, I heard about this woman named Ann Wynia. And to me, the fact that she's been on the front lines doing what needs to be done year after year not only qualifies her for the United States Senate, but makes it imperative that she be sent to the United States Senate, because we need United States senators who care more about the children of America than they do their own political partisan position in this country. We need United States senators who know that if children are not taken care of, all the rest that we do will not amount to very much. And we need United States senators who have a proven record of actual accomplishments. You know, there are talkers in life and there are doers, and you have a clear choice on Tuesday between a talker and a doer. And I know that this race is a tight race because folks who talk and folks who believe their obligation starts and ends with rhetoric always can confuse folks. I know that. I've seen that in election after election. It's hard for Ann Wynia to stand up here and tell you all that she has accomplished and what she knows she can accomplish in the United States Senate, because her mind is working so fast about how to put people together, how to build, how to create consensus, that she can't collapse it into some 30-second soundbite that people love to hear. But you just ask yourself, if you were building a business, you were building a family, you were building a community college for the future, who would you want? Would you want somebody who cares about you and can get the job done, or would you want somebody who day after day exhibits negativism, feeds our cynicism, and provokes yelling instead of bringing people together to try to solve the problems that face our country? You know, anytime that you go through a transition, as we are in this country, where things are changing, as the President has talked about time and time again, there's going to be some confusion, some insecurity. We're trying to find our way. We're trying to come together as a country. But Minnesota has a very clear choice. And I hope that between now and tomorrow when the polls close, every one of you in this room who knows Ann, who supports Ann, who has followed this campaign, will take the time to talk to people who may still be undecided or confused, people who may be frustrated and angry because, you know, life is never easy, it's never 100%, and it's never perfect. And to try to talk to them about the difference between rhetoric and results, between going back and going forward. If you take the time to do that and you personally reach out to people and talk to them about the kind of person Ann Wynia is, what she stands for and what she's done, then I am proud to say Minnesota's tradition of great public service will continue, and we will all be able to look to her leadership in the United States Senate. Thank you all.
Thank you. And now it is my great honor and pleasure to introduce a man who's bringing down the deficit, putting America back to work, the President of the United States, Bill Clinton.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Pam Pearson. Sounds good, doesn't it, Madam President? Out of my own past, I feel compelled to say someone ought to thank the band for being here to play with us today. Thank you for dressing up. Thank you, Senator Wellstone. Poor Senator Wellstone has no energy, no conviction. He's a walking fire plug for Minnesota. There are many public officials here. I don't want to introduce them all, but I would be remiss if I did not thank Congressman Martin Sabo, Congressman Bruce Vento, and the distinguished retiring congressman from Minnesota, someone who knows the difference between talk and action on the deficit, the economy, and a lot of other things, Congressman Tim Penny. Thank you all for being here. You know, most of what needs to be said about this race has already been said here today, but I want you to focus on what you could do between now and tomorrow to talk to other people. There's a high rate of undecided in all these surveys, to make sure that Ann Winnia wins. And I have given a great deal of thought to this. This really is a contest between whether we will continue going into a future that is full of opportunity and challenge, or go back to the easy answers of the past. It really is, as the First Lady said, a contest between the doers and the talkers, or the builders and the blamers. You know, for all of our problems, and we do have profound problems, 30 years of accumulated social problems, 20 years of basically stagnant wages and working people being at greater and greater risk of losing their health care or not getting a raise or having to change jobs. For all of these problems, we had 12 years of their side's approach. They had 12 whole years of trickle-down economics. We've had 21 months, and this country is in better shape than it was 21 months ago. You know, we have, jobs are up, the deficit is down, the federal government is smaller, but it's providing more opportunity for working families, for education, for family leave, and in so many other ways. The country is getting stronger. I want America to be strong. What makes a country strong? Strong families, strong education systems, safe streets, good jobs, a strong foreign policy that promotes peace and prosperity for Americans in the world. On all these counts, this country is in better shape than it was 21 months ago. Now, just last week we got the news that we had now over 5 million new jobs coming into this economy. The Minnesota unemployment rate has dropped about 1.5%. We're at a 4-year low in unemployment in the United States as a whole. For the first time in 15 years, American auto companies are #1 in the world in all of their sales. For the first time in 9 years, we've been voted again, finally, after 9 years, the most productive economy in the world. Why would we want to give the Congress to people who want to take us back to what almost wrecked us in the 1980s? Say no to them, say yes to our future. You know, there is always a little lag time between things that you do being done and things that you do being felt by voters. I understand that. And there are real frustrations and anxieties that the American people feel about their future that go way beyond normal politics. But what is the argument of our opponents? of Ann Winnie as opponent, of the Republican majority leader. They had a very clever strategy. From the beginning, they have pursued it with a vengeance. Their strategy was, the electorate is frustrated about the mess in Washington. Let's keep them frustrated. Their strategy was, let's stop whatever we can. We can kill health care reform, lobby reform, campaign finance reform, important environmental legislation. And when we can't stop something, let's at least deny that it happened or deny that it did any good. So they say, if anything good happened in the last 21 months, it was either in spite of or irrelevant to the work the rest of us did in Washington. Well, you know, folks, where I come from, we say, if you're walking down a road and you find a turtle on a fence post, chances are it didn't get there by accident. Hey, you think about that. Here is what, when we were voting last year, and Tim Penny was working his heart out last year on a plan to reduce the federal deficit after the debt had exploded, had quadrupled in the 1980s, threatening the future of our children, taking up all the money that needed to be invested in the private sector to create jobs, keeping interest rates high even in a recession. And the future of the country was on the line. The two people who are on the other side of town speaking today, here's what they said. The minority leader, Mr. Dole from Kansas, said, this is not real deficit reduction. And Ann Winnie, his opponent, said that this economic plan has ominous implications for the American economy and the American jobs. That's what they said. Now, they want to hold us accountable for all the messes that we inherited from them. At least we can hold them accountable for the decisions they've taken in the last 21 months. They were wrong. They were wrong on the deficit. They were wrong on the economy. They were wrong on the future of this country. Surely, even in this age of 30-second ads and negative sound bites and lobbing verbal bombs across the wall, surely someone, somewhere today will ask them, weren't you wrong about the deficit? Weren't you wrong about the economy? Why should we give you our future? You were wrong. All you did was try to stop progress for the last 21 months, and you were wrong. Somebody ought to say that to them and say, let's keep going forward. You know, they say the American people are so cynical, it is irrelevant what I do anymore, because everything the government does makes no difference to you and can't make your life better. Well, I don't know about you, but I think it made a difference that 845,000 families in Minnesota are now protected by the family leave law so they can be good workers and good parents when their children are sick or born. And I think it made a difference that 155,000 families in Minnesota had their income tax rates cut because they work for modest wages, and we don't think people who work full-time and raise children should be in poverty. We think they should be rewarded for what they do. I think it's making a difference that we're going to immunize all the kids in this country under the age of 2, so we'll have more little kids that look like these do in the future without regard to their race, their income, or where they live. I think that matters. I think it matters that we're making 20 million Americans, including over 400,000 people right here in Minnesota, eligible for lower cost, more affordable college loans so that every person in the country who wants to go to college can go. Now, someone ought to say today, if you have a clear choice between someone who supports those policies and someone who opposes those policies, Shouldn't we vote for the person who is for building the ability of the people of Minnesota to compete and win, to make the most of their God-given abilities? I think the answer is yes. Make no mistake about it, my fellow Americans, what they say is, there is gridlock in Washington, you're frustrated with Washington, give us control. Well, if they had had control, there would have been no family leave law, no student loan reform, no immunization of all the kids under 2, no expansion of Head Start, no deficit reduction, no economic expansion. That is what they would have done if they had been in control. Look at how they voted. No Brady bill, no crime bill. That is how they voted. So I say, think, folks, look at the record, hold them as accountable as they seek to hold us. I would gladly take a simple, even standard. Hold me accountable, hold them accountable for what we said and what we did. If that happens, Ann Wynia is going to the United States Senate tomorrow. You know, one of their greatest presidents was Theodore Roosevelt. He was a great fellow. I'd have been sorely tempted to vote for him if I'd been around. And one of the things I liked about Roosevelt was Teddy Roosevelt said the credit belongs to the person who is in the arena, who is trying. These folks say, punish the people who have tried and reward the people who sit on the sidelines and whine and bellyache and complain and point the finger and run for cover every time. It's time to take responsibility for the future. Vote for the party of Teddy Roosevelt. That's now us and Ann Wynia. That's right. You know, their greatest president was Abraham Lincoln. He is all of our president. Do you hear his words in their campaigns? Remember what Abraham Lincoln said? With malice toward none. Can you imagine them saying that today? With charity for all. Let us press on in the work we are in. Driven by the better angels of our nature. Because this is a government of, by, and for the people. They do not use those words. They seek to use malice and cynicism, our least charitable impulses, the lowest common denominator. That is not the Minnesota way. You know, I got really tickled. It would be laughable if it didn't work from time to time, that now Ann Wynia's opponent, who voted no on all those things I just said, is trying to convince the senior citizens of this state at the last minute that she is their enemy. Ann Wynia is a friend of children, a friend of working families, a friend of the elderly. Her opponent wants to go to Washington to implement what they said they would do: cut taxes, increase spending, and balance the budget. Does that sound familiar? Folks, let me tell you something. And this is the last thing I want to say. I wasn't going to bring this up, but I heard that he was attacking her for being the enemy of senior citizens. If you promise to increase defense, bring back Star Wars, give the wealthy a tax cut, and balance the budget, there are only two possibilities. One is you're serious, and the other is you're kidding. Now, that's right. And when I finish, don't take my word for it, go ask Mr. Penny. He's a budget expert and he's not running. But we fool with these budgets. If they are serious in doing what they say, here are their options. You got to cut everything else in the government 20% across the board, including Social Security and Medicare. That is the enemy of seniors. That's $2,000 a person, Social Security. If you say, oh no, we won't cut Social Security, because they always say, they'll probably say that here today, we didn't say we cut Social Security. Well, they didn't say they wouldn't. Then you have to cut everything else 30% across the board. That devastates the student loan program. That devastates the Head Start program. That devastates the crime bill and putting police on our streets. Ask the mayors. In other words, they are the enemy of the solemn contract we had with the elderly people of this country. Unless, of course, they're kidding. Now, the last time they had power, they were kidding. So, what did they do? What did they do? They talked so tough. They say, we are strong, we are tough. But they acted so weak. And so what happened? They exploded the deficit. They sent our jobs overseas. They put our economy in the drink. Let us say, sorry, we've been there. We tried that. We didn't like it. We like the unemployment rate going down, the deficit going down, jobs going up, more investment in education, a better future for our kids. We like Ann Winnia. We like hope, not fear. We like the future, not the past. Lift her up. Let's go on. Let's win on Tuesday. We can do it. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Four News this morning.
It's 7:07. It's Monday morning, the 7th of November. Good morning, everyone. I'm Bill Carlson. Well, he's back. One day before the election, President Clinton flew into the Twin Cities about 10:30 last night. He was greeted by U.S. Senate candidate Ann Winnia, U.S. Senator Paul Wellstone, and other state DFLers. Hillary Rodham Clinton flew in about an hour later. They went straight to the Hilton Hotel in downtown Minneapolis, where they spent the night. At 8:30 this morning, the President and First Lady will attend a campaign rally for Ann Winnia. It will be held at North Hennepin Community College in Brooklyn Park. Good morning, I'm Bill Carlson. It's 7:25 on this Monday morning. Minnesota's U.S. Senate race is obviously one of the most important races in the country. Both President Clinton and Senate Minority Leader Bob Dole will be campaigning in Minnesota today. The president arrived in Minneapolis last night. He spent the night at the Hilton Hotel in downtown Minneapolis. President Clinton and the First Lady will appear this morning with Ann Winnia in Brooklyn Park. And Mike Walcher is at North Hennepin Community College, where the Winnia rally will take place in about an hour. Mike?
Well, that's right, Bill. About 2,000 people are expected at least inside here at the gymnasium. The line stretches from here, the entrance, all the way around and back into another building here at North Hennepin Community College. They started giving out tickets to staff and students at 6:30 this morning. Folks have been waiting since then. You don't have a coat. Is this going to be worth it?
Yeah, I think it will be, because it's like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, I feel, just to meet the president and stuff. I think it will be worth it, actually, yeah.
You staying warm?
Well, I'm pretty cold because I'm getting that north wind coming toward me, so I'm kind of freezing out here, but it's worth it.
All right, we'll go up the line here. This is for staff and students who are getting tickets to come in. Also, some elementary school students are being bused in here from Maplewood. When did you get here?
We got here about 3 a.m.
Is it going to be worth it for you?
I hope so.
Going to vote for Winnia?
Yes, I am.
Do you believe most students will be voting?
I know there's a lot that are vote, but I know there's a lot that don't vote, and I think they should go out and vote. So it's a big deal, I think, to vote. So yeah, they should.
All right, Bill. President Clinton expected here in about an hour or so. First Lady Hillary Rodham Clinton will be with him on the stage here at North Hennepin Community College. Back to you.
Okay, Mike, and we'll be checking back with you periodically throughout the morning, and we'll be right back with your weather forecast. Now to North Hennepin Community College, where Mike Walcher is standing by. What's the latest out there, Mike?
Well, Bill, the doors have opened now. Members of the public, students and staff here at North Hennepin are being allowed inside. I'll step out of the way and you can take a look at the scene here in the gymnasium at North Hennepin Community College. The Winia people say their tracking polls have showed they have a slight lead over Rod Grams, and they believe the presidential visit today will nail down a victory for them tomorrow. Why are they here at North Hennepin Community College? Well, Ann Winia is a professor here in American government. She's on leave right now. That's one reason. They're also here in the suburbs in Brooklyn Park because their polling shows the undecided voters are in the suburbs. They'll be talking today a lot about the issues of education and crime, which they believe will resonate quite strongly with suburban voters. The theme of this rally is Move Forward. The Winia people are making a push to contrast their candidate with Rod Grams and the Republicans. They've made the point throughout the campaign that Grams and the Republicans, they charge, would bring the nation back to the 1980s, back to the Reagan years, and so this theme will be a very strong one today of Move Forward. The President and First Lady expected here sometime around 8:30, although things moving a little bit slowly with clearing the security and getting people inside might be a little later than that. Bill, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Mike, and I know you'll be standing by. We'll have live reports throughout the morning.
The WCCO News Special Report.
Good morning. I'm Bill Carlson in the WCCO television newsroom. President Bill Clinton has arrived at the North Hennepin Community College for a rally on behalf of DFL Senate candidate Ann Winia. Our Mike Walcher is on hand and has this following report. Mike?
Right, Bill. President Clinton walked in just a couple of minutes ago. The president of North Hennepin Community College will be speaking. A former student will speak. Senator Paul Wellstone will also have a few remarks here this morning on behalf of Ann Winia. He's whipping up the crowd now with their Ann fans. The First Lady will have a few comments, and then President Clinton will make remarks talking about the issues of education and crime. They had wanted about 2,000 people in the gymnasium here at North Hennepin Community College today. However, the fire marshal says the capacity is 1,700, so they've held it to about 1,700 staff and students who got tickets starting at 6:30 this morning are here to see the President and First Lady make this final campaign appearance on behalf of Senate candidate Ann Winia, locked in a dead heat with opponent Rod Grams. I'll step out of the way and we'll go back up to the podium. The tracking polls for the Winia people show, according to what they tell us anyway, that they have opened a slight lead over their opponent Rod Grams, and they believe that this appearance by the president will nail down a victory tomorrow. They also believe that the undecided voters are in the suburbs, and thus this event in Brooklyn Park, the suburb of the Twin Cities. We'll have further coverage on what the president says on your news at noon. Back to you, Bill.
Okay, thank you, Mike. And of course, we will be keeping tabs on things there. And if there are further important developments, we will have them and we will break into programming with them. We'll have an update a little bit later at the conclusion of these events. And then, as Mike indicated, a complete report on our news at noon.
The WCCO News Special Report.
I'm Bill Carlson, the WCCO television newsroom. President Clinton's appearance at North Hennepin Junior College has just ended. Mike Walcher is on the scene. Mike?
Right you are, Bill. The president's still here working the crowd. DFL activists up at the front of the room. I think we can pan in, perhaps see some glimpse over the Ann fans and the crowd of people here at North Hennepin Community College. A crowd of about 1,700 in the gymnasium. It was very enthusiastic, although I'd say not overwhelming in its support and applause and ovations for the president and Ann Winia. The president went through a list of things that he has accomplished for the nation in jobs and deficit reduction and family leave, the crime bill, and student loan reform. The president also had this to say about his Republican opponents.
I say, think, folks, look at the record, hold them as accountable as they seek to hold us. I would gladly take a simple, even standard. Hold me accountable, hold them accountable for what we said and what we did. If that happens, Ann Winia is going to the United States Senate tomorrow.
And President Clinton once again made his claim that Republicans, if they get their contract with America, would have to cut Social Security an average of $2,000 per person. The president also made a point in asking the crowd here, are you better off now than you were 21 months ago when he came in to office? And much the same as sort of a different twist on what President Reagan had asked the American people back in the 1980s. And he got a lot of enthusiastic applause from people making his point that the nation is in better shape now than it was in 21 months ago. And he said, give me the credit for that, give Democrats the credit for that, and not the Republicans. And when he also made a very inspired speech here today, appealing to many of the people she knows here, staff and students at North Hennepin Community College, and Winnie, a longtime professor in American government here at North Hennepin Community College. First Lady Hillary Rodham Clinton got some of the loudest applause and the loudest ovations of the day. She too made a very rousing speech, urging Minnesotans to send Ann Winnie to the United States Senate. As she put it, we need doers in Washington, as she said, Ann Winnie, a doer, as opposed to talkers. The president continues to work through the crowd of staff and students who have pressed to the front of the gymnasium here. He is heading on to the Twin Cities International Airport as soon as he has worked through his line of well-wishers here, and will go on to other campaign appearances in other states. Bill, we'll turn it back to you. Have full coverage on your news at noon.
Right you are, Mike. We will be on hand, too, of course, if there are any further developments that need to be covered. So do stay tuned to Channel 4. And as Mike just indicated, we will have a complete report for you at noon on the News at Noon here on Channel 4.
This is an Eyewitness News Morning Update.
Good morning, everybody. 725 degrees on this Monday, September 19th, and it is 42 degrees. Here's what's happening. The Senate race between Ann Winnie and Rod Grams is one of the tightest in the country, trying to give DFLer Ann Winnie that final push that could mean the election. President Bill Clinton is swinging through Minnesota for the second time in less than a week. Channel 5's Carrie Miller joins us live right now from Brooklyn Park. Carrie, is the president running a little bit behind schedule?
Actually, Art, I think the president is probably on time, but if you look behind me here, there are some very chilly people that have been waiting here. Well, they've been here ever since we got here, which is a couple hours ago. There's a real cutting wind out here, and these people have been huddled here outside the door waiting to get in. President's scheduled to speak here at about 8:30, hosting a rally for DFL Senate candidate Ann Winnie, hoping to boost some DFL voter turnout. Hoping to make sure that that tips the balance in her scales. We should also mention that IR Senate candidate Rod Grams has Bob Dole in Minnesota today, so some high-profile help coming in the final hours of this Senate campaign. Art?
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And we're going to update the forecast in just a moment. Stay with us.
Channel 5. This is an Eyewitness News Morning Update.
Good morning, everybody. Here's a beautiful shot taken from Tower Cam 5. It is 8:25 and 44 degrees on this Monday, November 7th, 1994. In the news, President Clinton is about to take the stage at yet another rally for Democratic U.S. Senate candidate Ann Winnie. The President and First Lady have joined Winnie at the college where she's taught for years now, North Hennepin Community College. And our Carrie Miller is also there with the very latest. Good morning, Carrie.
Good morning, Art. You can probably hear the band warming up here at the rally, which is supposed to begin at any minute now. Give you a shot here of the crowd. A lot of these people waited just for 2.5 hours out in a very chilly pre-dawn to get in here for about an hour-long rally with President Clinton and Hillary Clinton. Of course, the president coming in the second time in 3 days to rally support for DFL Senate candidate Ann Winnie. His aim is to continue an effort to get out the vote, the DFL vote. They're concerned that some DFLers will sit out this election tomorrow, and it is Ann Winnie's absolute necessity to get lots of voters to the polls if she is to win. We should mention that IR Senate candidate Rod Grams is also bringing in some heavy-hitting help today. He's got Bob Dole campaigning with him in Minnesota. So just hours before the polls open tomorrow morning, a lot of help coming in for these candidates. We'll be here to cover it for you and bring you full reports tonight at 5, 6, and 6:30 on Eyewitness News.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Carrie. Appreciate that.
Okay.
Well, anywhere
Undecided voters, and it believes many of them live in the suburbs. Thus, today's presidential rally in Brooklyn Park, at the college where Ann Winnie has taught government for 24 years. The president greeted people who couldn't get into the gym for the rally. Organizers, it seems, gave out too many tickets. Some people had to watch from the student lounge. The 1,700 who did get in heard a rousing endorsement from the First Lady, who said Winnie has a proven record of helping children and the needy.
You know, there are talkers in life and there are doers, and you have a clear choice on Tuesday between a talker and a doer.
The president again accused Republicans of wanting to cut Social Security. He lauded what he's accomplished with family leave, the crime bill, deficit reduction, and jobs creation.
We had 12 years of their side's approach. They had 12 whole years of trickle-down economics. We've had 21 months, and this country is in better shape than it was 21 months ago.
A few Graham supporters showed themselves in the crowd, turning the tables on the AND fans, but no one disrupted the speeches. The Graham spokesman had a ready response for the president.
We didn't hear him talk about the tax burden that families are facing. We didn't hear him talk about the need to have a real health care reform and not a government takeover of health care. Those are the issues that are of real concern.
From the rally, the president and the first lady headed to the airport. And after 3 trips here for Winia in 6 weeks, Mr. Clinton waved so long to Minnesota for this campaign season. The Winia campaign claims its tracking polls show a slight surge for her after the president's visit to Duluth on Friday. However, a CNN Gallup poll shows a Democratic rally may be over, that more people plan to vote against candidates endorsed by Mr. Clinton than for them. Don?
Good evening. The last scramble for votes hit warp speed tonight, the final hours of Campaign 94. Many of the races are ending hot, tight, and mean, with many voters in a volatile and frustrated mood. President Clinton went out barnstorming, hoping to foil Republican predictions of taking over the U.S. Senate and, a longer shot, a Republican recapture of the House. White House correspondent Rita Braver begins our coverage.
With polls showing Democrats lagging in key races nationwide, President Clinton, joined today by the First Lady, spent one last intense day stumping for candidates whose victories might make the difference in keeping a Democratic hold on Congress. At a Minnesota rally for Senate hopeful Ann Winia, the president, his voice grown hoarse after days of campaigning, charged that Republicans have failed to seek real solutions to problems like crime and health care and the economy.
These folks say, punish the people who have tried and reward the people who sit on the sidelines and whine and bellyache and complain and point the finger and run for cover every time.
Then it was on to Flint, Michigan, and
Election Eve, President Clinton says that his party can do it. We check the states that could prove him right or wrong. Among them, Florida and Virginia, California and Washington. How will an angry electorate vote tomorrow?
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Reporting tonight from ABC News Election Headquarters.
Good evening. This election eve, everyone agrees this is a very important midterm election, and by common consent, there may be a major political shift in the nation's capital. Every seat in the House of Representatives is being fought over. 1/3 of the Senate, 1/3 of the nation's governors. So how will the voters behave? Will Americans vote tomorrow? There are more close races at this hour than we have seen in years. And this is not the first time by any means that a president has been such a big issue, but Bill Clinton is certainly at the center of the storm, and that's where we begin. ABC's Britt Hume was with him today.
The president plunged into this final day of campaigning with aides saying hopes of keeping the Senate Democratic hinge on but a handful of races, including the one here in Minnesota. Democrat Ann Winia is given a chance of capturing a seat now held by a Republican. In his speech to the partisan crowd, Mr. Clinton promoted both his record and her campaign.
We like the unemployment rate going down, the deficit going down, jobs going up, more investment in education, a better future for our kids. We like Ann Winia. We like hope, not fear. We like the future, not the past.
The president clearly enjoys this, no matter the odds, and you could see it in the way he moved today. From Minnesota, he went on to Michigan.
One hour top story centers on tomorrow's election. The polls will open now in just over 12 hours.
And with time ticking away, the candidates have pulled out all the stops, making a last-ditch effort to attract as many voters as possible. We begin tonight with the Minnesota Senate race. Early this morning, President Clinton and the First Lady attended an Ann Winia rally in Brooklyn Park. It was the second time in 4 days that the president has been to Minnesota. After his Twin Cities stop, the president flew to Flint, Michigan to campaign for the Democratic Senate candidate there. The president has spent the last week campaigning for Democratic candidates in hopes of keeping control of the U.S. Senate and the House.
And as KARE 11's Dennis Stoffer reports, this race between Winia and Rod Grams is considered crucial for the Democrats.
To many in this crowd, she's Professor Ann Winia, and no doubt many of her students were present this morning at North Hennepin Community College. There were a few dissenters who support Winia's opponent, Rod Grams. But most of this audience gave enthusiastic approval to President Clinton. And to Hillary, who's been keeping a low profile lately.
Good morning.
The First Lady talked about Winnia's support for children's programs.
We need United States senators who know that if children are not taken care of, all the rest that we do will not amount to very much.
The president took Republicans to task because he said they aren't giving him credit for the good economic news since he took office.
Where I come from, we say if you're walking down a road and you find a turtle on a fence post, chances are it didn't get there by accident.
And he accused his critics of simply trying to obstruct the process.
All you did was try to stop progress for the last 21 months, and you were wrong. Somebody ought to say that to him and say, let's keep going forward.
The mere fact that Clinton was here for a second time in 4 days speaks to how high a priority he puts on this contest.
This race is so important to national Democratic strategists because it's the one Senate race in the country where they have a realistic chance of taking a Republican seat Democratic instead of simply defending one of their own.
Unlike many candidates, the Winnia campaign sees both the Clintons as a positive boost for her rather than a liability. Any candidate willing to do this between the first couple has been a rare sight this year. Dennis Stauffer, KARE 11 News, Brooklyn Park.
The latest polls show Winnia and Grams are in a dead heat now, and political experts say this race is going to be one of the closest